ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वञ्चाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Welcome. Today we will learn two verses, verse number 14 and 15 together. First we will chant and then we will discuss. Thank you. मात्रा स्पर्शास्तु कौन्तेय शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखदाः आगमापायिनो नित्यास्तां स्थितिक्षस्व भारत। Matra sparshaha, sensory perception. Tu only. Kaunteya, O son of Kunti. Shita, winter. Ushna, summer. Sukha, happiness. Dukkha and pain. Daha, giving. Agama, appearing. Apayinaha, disappearing. Anityaha, non-permanent. Tan, all of them. Titikshasva, just try to tolerate. Bharata, O descendant of Bharata dynasty. Translation. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O son of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. And verse number 15. Yam hina vyathayante te purusham purusharshabha sama dukkha sukham dhiram somrittatvaya kalpate. Yam, one to whom, he, certainly, na, never, vyathayanti, are distressing, ete, all these, purusham, to a person, purusha rishabha, obese among men, sama, unaltered, dukkha, in distress, sukham, and happiness, dhiram, patient, saha, he, amritatvaya, for liberation, kalpate, is considered eligible. Translation. O best among men, that is Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. So, in the previous three verses, that is from verse number 11 to 13, Bhagavan said that we are eternally spirit soul. So we are not gross body or subtle body, because both are temporary and changeable, and Atma is unchanging, eternal. So Bhagavan already said that we are not the body. Now here in these verses he is pointing at the mind and its changes, which are also temporary, and that is why can never affect the soul. So here Bhagavan actually teaching us to control the mind by tolerating the external factors. So mind must be controlled by intelligence, which is superior. Now, perfect intelligence is indeed a reflection of the Supreme Soul, but it is the rarest of the rare. So by practice, we can get rid of the conditions of the material energy or the external factors. So performance of duty must not be affected by happiness and distress arising from sense perceptions, the Lord says in this verse. And also he says that he also should remain undisturbed in happiness and distress, who wants liberation. So we see it is said that mana eva karanam manushyanam sukha dukkhayo bandha mokshayar urdha. So mind is the cause of happiness and distress, bondage and liberation. So we see if we try to define mind in a very simple language, then we can say that waves of thoughts are called the mind. We have to mute the participants who are entering. Okay, thank you. So what we were discussing upon, that it is the waves of thoughts that constitute the mind. So when we become unattached to the mind, we can actually see the position of this material world. If we can make the thoughts as object of our vision, then the thoughts cannot affect us anymore. So here we can see that Bhagavan says in chapter 6 in Dhyana Yoga, though in a different context, but the essence is same, that the untrained and restless mind can be trained by practice and dispassion. So here this unattachment to the mind, that if we can observe the mind being unattached to it, it is the same thing that Bhagavan has said in chapter 6. We will learn afterwards. So we must learn to tolerate here, as Bhagavan is saying, Tan titikshasva bharata. As he said, titiksha means tolerate. And titiksha bharata means he is saying that please try to tolerate, though it is not very easy for us to remain undisturbed and equal in every situation. That is why Bhagavan is saying that please try to tolerate the situations, the dvandva. So the appearance and disappearance of happiness and distress, which is permanent, impermanent, not eternal, they are like change of seasons, Bhagavan says. These kind of dualities come and go. They don't stay for a long. That we can experience the change of seasons every year in the similar manner. Does it affect us in any way? No. So they actually cannot create any kind of impact on our soul. They remain at the level of the mind only. So as we every time raise a question that how to get rid of sorrow, so here also the indirect answer is there. The best possible way to get rid of sorrow is to tolerate it. Tolerate it and remain undisturbed. Actually, we see our real test is in the time of adversity. And that is why Bhagavan says that tam bhramshayami sampadbhyo yasya cha ichhami anugraham. That is, he snatches away the material wealth from the person who becomes eligible for his special mercy, anugraham. So now we may ask that a material poverty can be a benediction. Is it possible? Is it not contradictory to the conventional thought? But not really. Facing adversities in life is not inauspicious at all. It is rather a benediction. But at the same time, taking refuge to the Lord with an intention to avoid adversities in life should not be the case. Rather, when we surrender at the lotus feet of the Lord, we receive the strength to face the adversities in life by His grace only, of course, by His grace. So that is why Arjuna here is advised to patiently handle the situation. Because who is undisturbed in every situation is eligible for liberation from this material bondage. Now, one has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations or the religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge. Because by knowledge and devotion, one can liberate himself from the clutches of Maya. So, performance of prescribed duties leads to purification of mind. Purification of mind. And the purified mind is capable to receive and retain the wisdom or jnana, which can lead us to liberation. That is the process. And here, particularly in this verse, as Bhagavan says, Kaunteya, with an intention, because a great heritage brings responsibility in the matter of discharging the duties. As we discussed in chapter 1 also, while studying the adverse effects of the destruction of family traditions and dynasty, so it has a great contribution to the society also. Thus, Arjuna cannot avoid fighting. So, by addressing Kaunteya, Lord specifically reminds Arjuna his responsibilities again, and he has to be tolerant and exhibit his natural bravery, which is a sign of great heritage that Arjuna belongs to. So here we see that the prescribed duties, we can discuss a little bit about the prescribed duties of the 4 classes according to the Vedic society. That is, our class system is based on nature and action, as Bhagavan says, Chatur Varnam Maya Srishtam Gunakarma Vibhagashaha. So it is based on nature and action. So Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, these are the 4 classes based on these principles. So Brahmana should focus on studies, teaching japa, meditation, the highest truth, all the scriptures, everything. So he must be a knower of Brahman in the process of that. So his responsibility is to acquire and spread knowledge and look after the spiritual growth of the people on the whole. And then is the Kshatriya, that is the administrative class. They should help the Lord to establish the religious principles. That is, their responsibility is to maintain the dharma, that is the religious principles in the society. And the third group is the traders. As Bhagavan says, Krishi Goraksha Vanijam Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam. So the traders should maintain the financial stability and development of the society. And the 4th class, that is the Shudras, they should help in the activities of others. So they should work for the overall maintenance of the society under the guidance of the above mentioned classes. So we see, if anyone does not follow the duty, his prescribed duties, the entire system will be collapsed. And avoiding action will make a man irresponsible and parasite. And falling from duties is a kind of fall down also. So performance of prescribed duties is a must, but at the same time, the fruits of activities to be offered to the Lord. So definitely we have to follow the duties, every one of us. that is according to our nature and guna karma, nature and class. Nature and action, actually, guna karma. So we see now, as Bhagavan is saying, that tolerate and follow your duties. So following of duties, we understood a little bit. Now, what is tolerate? What to tolerate? I mean, how to tolerate and what to tolerate? A little description, a brief discussion we can have in this connection. So actually, we see there are 4 types of tolerance. Number 1 is Vega Sahishnuta. Vega Sahishnuta means tolerating temptation. Number 2 is Dvandva Sahishnuta, that is tolerating the inconveniences and tribulations. Number 3 is Paramata Sahishnuta. Paramata Sahishnuta means tolerating and accepting the opinions of others. And number 4 is Para Utkarsha Sahishnuta, that is tolerating and accepting the superiority of others. So these are the tolerance that we have to, we try to learn in order to remain undisturbed in every situation. Now, Vega Sahishnuta, we see in Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamrita, the first verse says about this Vega Sahishnuta. 6 kinds of tolerance here is mentioned as Vacho, that is control over speech. We feel like to speak so many things in different on different topics, but which is not always good for our mental health and others also. And number 2 is Manasa, that is control over the mind, which is the most difficult thing, and everything is actually related to this. Then Krodha Sahishnuta, that is control over anger. In every little thing we become angry. If the situation is little adverse, we lose control over our mind and become angry. If anybody dishonors us, if anybody says anything wrong to us. Then is Jiva, that is control over taste buds. Then Udara, that is control over the urge of eating unnecessarily. And then is Upastha, that is control over genital. So tolerating temptations on the whole is Vega Sahishnuta. And then Dvandva Sahishnuta is tolerating inconveniences and tribulations, as we said. That is the duality of Shita Ushna, as Bhagavan says in this verse, winter and summer. The extreme climatic conditions that we must learn to tolerate. We should not unnecessarily say, oh my God, it is too hot or it is too cold, because every year we experience the same. So there is no use of saying and non-acceptance of all these things in a way. So then is Mana Apamana, that is honoring and dishonoring, or applauding or criticizing or ridiculing. So these kind of things. And Sukha Dukha, that is happiness and distress. These are some of the Dvandva or duality that we face in our everyday life. So we must learn to tolerate these also. Then Paramata Sahishnuta, most of the time we actually want to prove our point instead of hearing others, instead of approving others' point. So proving is not always good. Approving is also sometimes necessary, and that is why we must learn to patiently listen to other people's opinion also. That is paramata sahishnutā. So see, when we actually can accept this in a cool mind, then we can see the peace of mind that we get within. But when we react to other people's opinion, we lose our peace of mind. So how this kind of tolerance is important in our life, we can see. Then is para utkarsha sahishnutā. That is when we see other people's growth. Many of us generate a kind of envy within our heart. Irsha. It is, which actually will lead us to destruction, our own destruction. So mind will be completely uncontrolled and it will lose its stability. So there is no question of spiritual development. Even at the mental level also we will be shattered. So here in this connection, para utkarsha sahishnutā, as we see Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra could not accept the superiority of the Pandavas over his own sons, and that is why he became so envious of the Pandavas. Para utkarsha sahishnutā, he could not do this, and at the same time we can share a short story in this connection, which is just the opposite. Who is a positive example. Dhritarashtra is a negative example of para utkarsha sahishnutā. A positive example is a bird story, that is a crow. As we know, the crows are not very good looking birds. So one crow one day became very disappointed on his bodily features, and he went to his wife and said that, see, all other birds are so beautiful. See the cuckoos, they can sing so beautifully. See the parrots, they sing so beautifully, and they also look so beautiful. That then the peacocks, they are so beautiful. So he became very depressed on this issue. So then as he was flying, he met a cuckoo, and then again a parrot, and finally when he met a peacock in the zoo. So that peacock said, see, you are thinking that you are unfortunate, but you are much more fortunate than that of me, because due to my beauty, see, I am encaged in this zoo, whereas you can fly freely. So you are much superior in this connection. So see how beautifully we see in the peacock para utkarsha sahishnutā. So he can appreciate. When we actually can see the goodness in other people, we can appreciate, and appreciation gives us enormous peace within, happiness within. So this is an example of that. And the most important example that we will discuss today, briefly, we don't have much time, that of Jadabharata. Jadabharata is a perfect example of tolerating temptation, tribulations, and inconveniences. All. And Jadabharata was a king named Bharata in his previous life. He was a great devotee of Lord Sri Hari, and to meditate on Sri Hari in his in the later part of his life, he left his kingship, family, and everything, and went to the forest. And in the forest, one day he saw a mother deer who was uh, about to give birth of her child. And what happened, um, while it was trying to cross the river, it just gave birth of the child and was drowned. So then Jadabharata saved the dear child, and as the days passed by, he developed tremendous compassion and then attachment to it slowly. So initially it started with playful attraction but resulted in tremendous attachment. Now one day that deer left him and went to a distant place, and he was so disturbed from within that in separation he left his physical body, and as a result of this he got a deer body in his next life. As we will learn that the thoughts that remains with us all our life, and especially at the time of death, we get a body according to that thought. So as he was contemplating on this deer baby, so he got a deer body in his next life. But due to his sukriti, that is the spiritual benefit that he received in his previous life as a great devotee, and he could remember everything, and that deer birth also was very short. And then after this deer birth he was born as Jadabharata. He was transferred to the body of Jadabharata. So there also, of course, he was very conscious about the chance of fall down in the path of spiritual progress. So now he was very, very particular about overcoming these dualities. That is, whether he would receive some food or not, he would remain undisturbed and equal, less or more, good or burnt, anything, he used to be same and undisturbed in every situation. What so happened, one day the dacoits kidnapped him to offer in the Kali temple. When he saw the death is approaching, then also he remained undisturbed. And when these dacoits raised their weapon to cut the head in front of Kali Mata, the Kali Mata came out from the Vigraha and cut the dacoits with their choppers. So, but in every situation he remained undisturbed. When the death was approaching, then also, when he was saved by Kali Mata herself, then also. And then another incident about Jadabharata is this with King Rahugana. When he was carrying the palanquin of King Rahugana, he was walking on the path very cautiously because he was not ready to harm any creature in this earth. So as the ants and other insects was moving, so he was very cautious to avoid them and not to harm anyway. So the palanquin was getting imbalanced, and King Rahugana, who was inside the palanquin, became irritated, and he just came out of the palanquin and chastised him and said left and right, scolded like anything. So then at that point of time also, Jadabharata was completely stable and undisturbed. And then he uttered a few words of wisdom, and hearing those, King Rahugana accepted him as his guru and he became disciple. Then also, in elation, he was not flying or something like that. Then also he was completely undisturbed. So we see from his character the perfect example of tolerance. Then in Haridasa Thakura also he is a great example of tolerating temptation. We know the story that when the prostitute came with a view to assassinating his character, he respectfully made her waiting for 3 consecutive days. And on the 3rd day, it so happened that the lady, after 3 days of sadhu sangha, the association with the devotee, he and his divine chanting, the chanting of the holy name, she became purified and was transformed into a great devotee. So tolerance actually we can see is a natural quality of the self-realized devotees. As Jada Bharata, Haridasa Thakura, there are a few examples. But for the general people, the instruction of the Lord is to learn to tolerate by constant practice. Okay, so thank you. वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे।